Great to be here with you on this Tuesday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us. So much to get to here on the program. We'll hear from Bob Rathman, the voice of the Atlanta Hawks on Bally Sports South. He will join us. Hawks up 3-1 over the Knicks over the weekend. We'll get the very latest with the Atlanta Braves and a lot to get to there as well. But right off the bat, the dead period is over. It's a college football frenzy here on the opening kind of period of recruiting and talk to transfers. You can talk to high school kids, have kids on campus. So much to get to around the college football world. And joining us here right off the bat from Dogs Daily on SI.com, Brooks Austin joins us here on 3 and Out. Brooks, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How are you guys today here on 3 and Out?
Hey, man, we are great. And this is the first time in like a year and a half that college coaches have been able to get guys on campus. And it all started at midnight. I mean, how crazy has it been around the college world to have this officially opened back up?
Mike Norvell was dropping off 5-star corners at 12:01 at the Florida State recruiting facility in his brand new, what do you call that? Like a three-wheel sports car, whatever, with all kinds of LED lights. It's been absolutely insane, and it's only going to get crazier at this point. Georgia's got near 200 prospects on campus today alone. This is honestly the biggest time in recruiting that not only I've ever recruited. I think you can go as far as to say this is the wildest time in recruiting in the history of college football, considering the 16-month layoff that we had due to the COVID restrictions and the NCAA putting a dead period on recruiting. So, yeah, this is absolutely absurd in the sense that all the players moving everywhere. There are kids that will be in Athens today, Georgia Tech tomorrow, Clemson on the 3rd. I mean, yada, yada, yada. It moves on and on. I know of players that will go on 15 visits in the month of June alone.
What are the priorities for Georgia? I know you just want momentum, you want energy, you see the posts on social media, but from a roster standpoint, what are Georgia's priorities right now that you can make contact and have student athletes on campus?
Yeah, I think when you look at the roster, priority has to be put on the defensive back position, right? Just because of how many they lost due to, transfer portals and things like that with the NFL draft. 6 guys from last year's roster, obviously off of that roster now. But most importantly for the University of Georgia, I think this month, especially having all these kids on campus, most of which will be competing during camp-type circuits there in Athens. Most importantly for me, I think it's more about assimilating that board, what the remainder of this 2022 class is going to look like for Georgia. They will decide who the green light guys are, who the takes are, who are the guys that they're prioritizing based off what they're seeing now. Because obviously these college coaches haven't seen these kids in 16 months. So there's a lot of physical development going on in those 16 months, good or bad, both ways. So I think most importantly for Georgia, it's figuring out who you're placing priority on moving forward and knowing where your holes are on the roster. But they already knew that going into this. This is more about finding out answers to the questions that they've had this entire recruiting process for this 2022 class.
And Brooks, you kind of mentioned it when we first came on. You talk about, Norvell and what he did at Florida State. You talk about 200 guys on campus today in Athens. How crazy could Georgia end up getting? I know they're going to have their pick of the litter, but it becomes it becomes less about who they get and how to upstage these other colleges and universities around the country.
Yeah, I think they're already on track to do that, Ben. Kirby's normally been a closing recruiter, right? He likes to store up, all that momentum for the end of the cycle. He's flipped that on its head this year with what's going on now. They stacked this in terms of getting all these kids on campus as soon as possible for a reason. And the main reason being that brand new $80 million indoor facility. I have no doubt that kids will walk through that and that'll be their first moment of, wow, I'm on an unofficial visit, or in some cases, wow, I'm on an official visit. And they'll leave Athens and they'll go wherever they want. They'll go to Clemson, they'll go to Ohio State, they'll go to Bama, and nothing will meet up to what they just walked out of in Athens. That new indoor facility is beyond state of the art. It is beyond anything that is on college campuses as of now, mostly because it's the newest thing on campus as of now. The only thing I think that can even, come close to competing with it would be LSU's brand new locker room that they built that I think they spent north of $25 million on. But that's just a locker room, guys. We're talking about an entire indoor facility that's even got its own barber shop in it. So you can catch a quick fade and then go get your workout in all in one. So it's absolutely state of the art. It's absolutely insane. And that they stacked this up strategically for this very reason. And when you look at what they've got on schedule this year in terms of their home games for Georgia, it's not a lot of, big time games. It's a lot of Charleston Southerns, UABs, South Carolina, Arkansas, Kentucky, games like that. There is no 2019 Notre Dame home game for these guys to load up, 5-star official visits for. This is their big swing at this 2022 class in particular. And I think they're going to hit a home run on a lot of these guys. Does that mean you're going to see a rush of commitments in the next week? I don't think so. I think they're going to allow these kids to go see these other options before they put any pressure on them to commit. I think if you're looking for a wave of commits, July is probably the time you're going to be looking at for most of these kids to start popping.
Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI.com. Joining us here on 3 and Out. And Brooks, what are the need positions and how is Georgia looking here? I know we talked a lot about it in 2020 with kind of the refiguring of the numbers with guys who are coming back for that extra season and the free transfers and things. How does Georgia look on the numbers that they're looking at for this recruiting cycle, simply because it's kind of not been set? It's not like, hey, we can plan this thing 3-4 years out within a scholarship or two, but this has been kind of turned on its head. How are they looking?
Yeah, I mean, come August, once the next semester starts, those seniors coming back for additional years, per the NCAA's rules, they don't count towards the 85 scholarship rules. So guys like Devontae Wyatt, Demetrius Robinson, Julian Rochester, those scholarships will not count towards this upcoming class. And I don't get into numbers counting. It's a losing proposition with how much roster mobility that they have available to them nowadays in the NCAA. But I will tell you straight from Kirby Smart's mouth, he wants to take a full class in this class. He said it on National Signing Day, the original National Signing Day back in February when the 2021 class wrapped up, and they asked him about the 2022 class. First thing he said is, I want to take a full class. What does a full class look like? It looks like 24 or 25 type of commits and signees in this class. And I think they have an opportunity to get to that number. The only thing that might impact that is, well, how many transfers do they end up taking? They've already got 2 on roster in Tyke Smith and Brandon Turnage, and there's large speculation that they're going to add some more. So that's going to be impactful on how many numbers they can actually take in this 2022 class, and not to mention how many guys do they expect to leave for the NFL draft this coming up year. All those things impact how many guys they can actually sign in this 2022 class.
And I was going to say, Brooks, the transfer portal, always names there, some high-profile guys. Would Georgia benefit from adding a couple of more names? And are there potential targets out there for Georgia when you think about the portal?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely room, not only room for them to add, but there's need for them to add. I'm not going to get into names in specific, but you know the defensive back room's still light, even with the additions of Tyke Smith and Brandon Turnage. Turnage is a guy who's got 3 years left. I don't think that's an impact guy this year. They need one of those. So go get an impact corner. There's only one of those available in the transfer portal. And then offensively, you've got to find a way to replace what it is you lost in George Pickens. And I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna go out and try to do that relatively soon. So those are the things I'd be looking out for. Maybe a defensive back and a weapon to catch the football, whether that be at the wide receiver position or the tight end position, or maybe a hybrid of both.
And Brooks, I mean, $80 million indoor facility is obviously going to be very, very attractive to any guy coming in, trying to go to Georgia, whether they're in the transfer portal or not. But how does Kirby Smart set himself apart, from the rest of the class in a situation like this? Because obviously he's got the numbers, obviously he's got the reputation, obviously he's got the wins. But how does he flex his muscle in a situation where not only having 200 guys on campus, but really showing people why he's the creme de la creme when it comes to recruiting?
Man, it's just an energy thing from him. The players that I talk to, all they talk about is how different Georgia visits are. I don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. There's no quantifiable reason that it's just different, but it is. And I think a lot of that is the culture that Smart's, created there, and just the energy and juice that's around that building. He did not care that Scott Cochran has never coached a lick of special teams in his life. What he did care about was the juice and the energy that Scott Cochran brings to a building and brings them on staff and adds them. Same thing for a guy like Matt Luke. Matt Luke is, just a Tasmanian devil when it comes to the level of energy. And then you counteract that with recruiters like Todd Monken, who aren't going to blow your phone up. They're not going to go crazy. They're not going to jump off the walls. But what they are going to do is be one of the smartest individuals you've ever spoken to when it comes to the game of football and offensive concepts. And not only super smart, but able to relay that to someone who may not have his level of education in the game of football, but he still can coach it. And that's what a great teacher looks like. And that's how he goes about it. So you see a staff that's just completely different in the way in which how they go about recruiting. But the main thing is all of them care about recruiting. This is not, and Ben, I know you know this, but that program, your alma mater right now, the word on the street is from them. They don't really prioritize recruits as much or recruiting as much as say a school like Georgia does. Well, Georgia's lifeblood right now is recruiting. And they do a damn good job of doing it.
Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI.com. Jordan, I guess I know you mentioned picking up guys in the transfer portal, short of mentioning names. I think fans can speculate who some of those guys might be, but how are those transfer portal guys? Are they treated like recruits? Can Georgia host them on campus? Can they dive? How do you work transfer portal guys in this process?
I think a lot of it's done over the phone, to be honest with you. As soon as they hit the portal and they're officially in there, I mean, it's a lot of conversations with the players themselves and getting to know them and getting to talk to them and making them feel comfortable. I don't know what the rules are in terms of being able to host potential transfers. Obviously, before today, it was not possible. I don't think that's something that you see a lot anyways. I think what you see a lot of is, like I said, conversations over the phone and dating back to relationships that were already built. Most of these guys that they're after in recruiting, in the portal and the NCAA transfer portal, most of these kids, they've been actively recruiting since they were in high school, maybe even back in middle school in some of these cases. So they've built relationships with these kids and relationships with the people around these prospects. So, at this point, it's about rekindling those relationships and just making them stronger. And I think that's something that Georgia's, really, really good at, obviously.
And at this point, Brooks, when you talk about recruiting, whether it's high school student athletes, transfer portal guys, I mean, are there really only 3 or 4 programs that are kind of contenders with Georgia? I know you mentioned Florida maybe doesn't get kind of the 5-star results that Georgia does. I mean, who does Georgia, just generically speaking, recruit against in terms of these elite prospects?
Yeah, it's Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State. And the school that I'd be on the lookout for, guys, moving forward, especially with name, image, and likeness coming around, USC. Y'all are going to look up in 5 years and be like, oh, crap, Southern Cal's back. Like, that's what's going to happen. Don't get it twisted. Southern California has built a legitimate movie studio literally directly across the street from their football facility. And that is something that they're going to be selling. They're going to get kids from the Southeast to go out there and take official visits. It's already happening in the class of 2022. Are they going to land them this year? I don't know, but they're getting a crack at them. Christian Miller's going to take a visit out there, defensive tackle from Cedar Grove. Michael Williams taking an official visit out there. Kojo Antwi, wide receiver out of Lambert, taking an official out there. Addison Nichols, offensive lineman from Greater Atlanta Christian. They're going out to Cali, and they're going to get a look at what it looks like to be out in USC and be out in Southern California. And to me, that's a major player. That has been a major sleeper in college football for the last decade, basically. And that coming back to the surface of college football, that's a scary proposition if you're a Southeastern recruiter, period, because USC is one of those brands that can go into Atlanta, Georgia, can go into Savannah, Georgia, can go into North Florida and say, hey, Los Angeles looks pretty good year round. You want to come out here and see what this is all about? And they'll get their foot in the door. It's all about whether or not Clay Helton and his staff can get to finishing those types of recruitments. And if they start to do it, that's a sleeping giant.
And Brooks, look, I know these coaching staffs have gotten much bigger when you talk about being able to have analysts and all this. How does one facilitate 200 players on a campus that hasn't seen any recruits in a year? Like, how does one even go about facilitating something like that?
I always go back to the show Veep. I was thinking about this morning. I don't know if you've ever seen Veep on HBO, but the vice president has like an assistant that walks up behind her and whispers in her ear exactly who it is that's walking up to her and about to shake her hand. That's what I picture Kirby Smart like. He's maybe got a pack of index cards in his pocket because I have problems remembering names of kids. I can't imagine what it's like when you're talking about, 175, 200 players on campus. To be honest with you, I don't know. I have no idea how they go about facilitating what's going on today. I would imagine they do it in waves, 8th to 9th, 10th graders first, and then get to, 10th and 11th graders in there in the later afternoon. I don't know. It is a mass circus right now, but they blew it out of the water. They went as big as they possibly could, and it is all by invite. This isn't an open camp. This is something that these kids that are on campus today, they have been reached out to by Georgia staff. They have been asked to come to campus, and so they're well informed on who these kids are. And at that point, it's about trying to get them through the building in a single file line, I guess, and having an opportunity to interact with them face to face. But I would imagine Kirby and Dan Lanning and Todd Monken and the top dogs, they're probably focused on this 2022 class and these kids that are on campus today. They'll make their way and show face to a couple 2023s that are maybe, elite top end prospects that they got to have. And then make their way moving forward through that. I wouldn't imagine Kirby shaking hands with 600 people today. I wouldn't imagine that that's what the case is. I would imagine that he's singularly focused on what he's got to do. And then after that, like you said, it's the analyst staff, it's that recruiting coordinating staff, which at this point in most SEC and Division I levels, I mean, there could be as many as 40, staff members that are handling business today in Athens.
Wow. Brooks Austin from Dogs Daily on SI.com. Our guest here on 3 and Out as the dead period is over. Recruiting is all fast and furious. Brooks, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
No doubt, gentlemen. Y'all have a good day.
Will do. And again, Brooks talking about some of the 200 high school kids coming on campus. Also, a lot of speculation that Georgia, we talked about transfer portal in the mix for Eric Gilbert from LSU, Darion Kendrick out of Clemson. Who knows what will happen there, but a lot of speculation that those two young men are highly interested in joining forces there in Athens. So that's two guys right there, BJ and Ben, that could really change the dynamic of your program really quickly.
Yeah, two of the top players that are in the portal. When you think about Kendrick, who was a corner at Clemson, two-time All-ACC, and then Gilbert, Ben, as you know, one of the best, tight ends in the country. So a lot on the horizon. It could see a busy week for a number of different schools with recruiting.
Yeah, Georgia's always going to be one of the biggest brands. I mean, in college football, one of the biggest brands in the country. But, I mean, we mentioned Gilbert, we mentioned Darion Kendrick, BJ, and Kevin. There's a big difference between, being a focal point and a slot filler. You will know when you walk away from Athens, you will get a true indicator if I'm a priority or I just got an invite. We will see.
We've got a whole lot to get to here on 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Hawks with a big weekend. Braves trying to bounce back from a tough week against the Nationals. They did so yesterday. We'll get to that and more. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Busy weekend in the ATL. We'll get to the Hawks coming up in just a little bit. We'll also hear from Bob Rathman, voice of the Hawks on Bally Sports South, about that 3-1 series lead over the Knicks. But the Braves obviously have been battling the rain against the Mets. Just a awful day on and off the field for the Atlanta Braves there on Saturday. And, of course, we are speaking of Marcell Ozuna, arrested on domestic violence charges. Team issued a statement, kind of what you assume they would say, which is we're going to wait for the investigation to take place before we comment further. He's on the injured list, so he was not with the team presently in the first place. But you read the report, and I won't go into all the details, BJ and Ben, but obviously it is a altercation. Marcell Ozuna and his wife, who have had an issue in the past. I think last year she against him, and now on the other side of it, obviously not good, unacceptable behavior, and we await to see what's going to happen. I think the Braves, Brian Snitker even was kind of like, I'm just going to say what the Braves said in their statement because that's really all he could say. But a lot of speculation now that once Marcell Ozuna is healthy enough to return to baseball, does he return to baseball, and does he return to baseball with the Atlanta Braves? I think the commissioner's office is going to have a say in this thing when it's all said and done. And BJ, you and I were looking into this before the show. They've actually issued suspensions for players under their domestic abuse policy where convictions weren't handed out. It was just, hey, the fact that you're involved in this warrants something. And I would say at a bare minimum, regardless of how it plays out in the legal system, you're talking about Marcell Ozuna, bare minimum, just based on prior precedent, 15, 20 games, if not half a season at bare minimum. And again, you hear stories about the Braves looking into whether they could void the contract. No, it's not good whatsoever. And you begin to think, will Marcell Ozuna, who was probably the biggest priority signing the Braves had this past offseason, even going to play with the Braves ever again at this point? Again, let's wait for the trial, but what you read in the report is not good, and you wonder if he's coming back to the Braves at all.
Yeah, extremely troubling, concerning. You mentioned the report's unacceptable. And when you talk about what's upcoming, of course, the trial and the charges and kind of what happens there, and very serious, this situation, obviously. But you're talking about potentially, or definitely, I would say, a separate investigation from Major League Baseball where you could have a suspension, a substantial suspension, regardless of kind of, like you said, what happens in the trial. There are examples of that. So with the policy Major League Baseball has. So just absolutely unacceptable what's in the reports there. But you're talking about a legal situation, and then with Major League Baseball, their policies as it pertains to domestic violence.
I mean, and I don't ever think I would hear see myself saying this, but I don't think Marcell should come back to the Braves for the simple fact that I'm not saying that Marcell shouldn't get another chance. I'm not saying that Marcell, and his wife don't need to, work out whatever they're dealing with. And obviously my heart goes out to Marcell Ozuna's wife. I mean, I know it was things in the past about, I'm never ever going to be on the side of a man putting his hands on his woman. Definitely if it's his wife. But at a certain point, we got to start acting like we care about women, and we can't give professional athletes a pass, because I'm telling you, if nothing happens but a suspension and a fine, it's like nothing happened. Because this is Marcell Ozuna, who his contract is fully guaranteed. He's 30 years old. He's been in the majors a long time. And I think sometimes, I know you got the policies and rules and procedures of MLB. What does it say what does it say about, the issue that he has? I don't know Marcell Ozuna. I'm not digging into his past like that. But like you said, Kevin, you read that report and you like, goodness. I mean, this is the one of those things to where, he say, she said. No, the police saw him doing these things. So I just think that real life always trumps sports. Real life always trumps celebrity. Real life always trumps opportunity. And Marcell Ozuna need to know that there's a consequence of this. I mean, not saying that I'm using Twitter as my credible source, but when they were talking about the voiding his contract and all that, I mean, I wasn't even thinking about that concept of things. But Kevin, I mean, when you think about the Braves, I mean, outside of the fact that they dealing with what they dealing with, trying to stay in it, this is one of your key contributors on your team who potentially could have played his last play for you. You got to deal with answering questions about him on one hand. How do you deal with his contract on another hand? And I mean, dare I say, if it doesn't go well, do you find yourself, being in some type of, legal stuff with Marcel if you do indeed try to void his money?
Well, I think that kind of shows you where the Braves are at it, that you saw people who cover the team even bringing those questions up. Like they didn't know if the Braves would be able to do it. Which means those questions are being asked. Certainly. I mean, I think that when you have a domestic abuse policy, I think that is great. I think when you talk about leagues who are public, like the NBA, and by public, I mean, you see them out there. The guys are, I think you should have some kind of domestic abuse policy. Look, this is not something either. Obviously we want to get behind, but it's not something we want as a representation of our league, as who we are. So I think that is going to be interesting to see what happens at the end of all this. From what I understand, because the authorities have filed the charges, like you can't go back and say, nope, I don't want to press charge. Like it's going forward. It's my understanding of the state of Georgia that now it's gotten to this point, it is going forward. There will be some kind of resolution legally to this all for Marcell Ozuna. And then again, from a less important standpoint, is what do the Braves do about it? And again, in the court of public opinion, which it matters in professional sports, I don't know that he can play for your team right now. And again, if it's a year suspension, maybe you say, look, he's been away, year suspension without pay, didn't get any of his money. We're going to give him a second chance. Maybe that's a different discussion for down the road. I just don't see at this point where he's injured already. And BJ, I know that's one of those things where it's like, hey, you're injured and can't play for 2 months, 2 months suspension. Well, you can't play anyways. So I think that's one of those where I think this will be a lengthy suspension for Major League Baseball when it comes down. It's going to be a little bit, but I can't imagine that Marcell Ozuna is playing for the Braves in 2021. I can't imagine that that's something that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. And what we're talking about is just absolutely unacceptable. It's just absolutely unacceptable. And you have the legal system, and then you have Major League Baseball. But I think you guys are right. And, again, praying for the victims and just looking at this situation for what it is. Baseball, sure, as you mentioned, Kevin, is very much, not the priority here. So just an unacceptable situation. And I think what you guys are saying makes sense. I don't think we see Ozuna with the Braves, and understandably so when you think about all that's ahead and all that tragically has happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that has to play out, obviously, before you get to that point. But again, you read the report, it doesn't look good at all. And that still has to play out before you get to any kind of resolution to that story. And then Major League Baseball weighs in from their standpoint on what they want to do with Marcell Ozuna at that point, before you even get to what are the Braves looking to do with Marcell Ozuna. So a lot of layers for that story to find itself to a resolution there. Unfortunately, we're even having to talk about this on a Tuesday afternoon. A lot of other things going on, though we'll talk with Bob Rathman, voice of the Hawks, on Bally Sports South. Hawks are up 3-1, BJ and Ben, over the New York Knicks. Knicks, I know, have had their issues apparently with the Hawks. A lot of players asked about, hey, are the Knicks playing y'all tough, dirty, however you are? I think tough is a reporter question for, are they doing you dirty out there? I know Bogdanovic got an elbow in the face. Kevin Herter's hand got stepped on during one game. So how do you feel this series is going down right now for Atlanta in what was projected to be a pretty evenly matched series? Has, for the last two games especially, been anything but?
For me, I think, obviously I wouldn't be lying if I said I knew it would be 3-1 at this point, but I don't think we talking about the Knicks, we talking about the Hawks, we talking about the wrong people. Should be talking about Nate McMillan. I mean, he knows what he's doing, and Nate McMillan is very, very complimentary of Lloyd Pierce. Something me and BJ be talking about a lot, Kevin, is Lloyd Pierce was built to be a developer. I think it was too early for him to have a team. But this could never happen. I don't know if Nate McMillan would ever bring Lloyd Pierce back. I don't know if he would have to become interim the head coach. Take the interim tag off. But these guys are buying in. I mean, when you're looking at the fact that the Knicks thought they were gonna bully Atlanta as if to say, like, the Knicks don't got no persona. This ain't the Knicks of old. You guys ain't been in the playoffs in a long time, and when you finally get in, your best player is Julius Randle. I think he was most improved player. I am very, very impressed with the late game stops. I am very, very impressed with the fact that those guys are trying to go out there and make some late game stops. But Kevin, them Hawks about to move on. Them MLK units, whoo, them boys is nice.
We'll talk to Bob Rathman, voice of the Hawks, about that when we come back. But some quick breaking news. Of course, he hangs up the phone with us and gets to the breaking news. Brooks Austin, there on Twitter, Georgia lands former All-ACC corner Darion Kendrick. So he is now going to be a Georgia Bulldog and a big upgrade there in the secondary for Georgia. We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit after Bob Rathman, who joins us next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to be here on this Tuesday. Hawks up 3-1 on the Knicks. Getting ready for Wednesday night's showdown to try to close out the series. Joining us here, the voice of the Hawks on Valley Sports South, Bob Rathman, joins us here on 3 and Out. Bob, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, guys, I'm doing great.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on. It seems like it went from evenly matched series that the national media thought the Knicks would win to the Hawks up 3-1, and all the quotes are like, hey, they thought they could push us around, but not so much.
Well, it started early in this series, and it hasn't affected the outcome at all. Had we not blown a 15-point lead in Game 2, this series would have ended Sunday in Atlanta. So I think the Hawks are playing great. They're the better team. And if you've been watching and paying attention, which, of course, the national media does not do, but if you were, you would see that these are two teams headed in the opposite direction. The last week of the regular season, the Knicks got buried by San Antonio, and to their credit, they came back and won. 2 nights later, they should have lost in regulation to Charlotte, and then nearly got beat by the Celtics G League team on Sunday. That's how they closed the regular season. Meanwhile, the Hawks were on a terrific roll, winning all these home games, playing great basketball, and got healthy, got Hunter back, and really these are two teams headed in the opposite direction.
Bob, defensively, how impressive has this team been when you think about, having to get stops postseason basketball? I don't know that a couple of months ago we would have projected that, but here Atlanta is one of just 2 teams or 3 teams, I think, in the postseason holding their opponents to less than 100 points per game.
It's been outstanding, and I think Nate's game plan has been terrific. They have really taken Julius Randle out of this series. They've gotten into his head. Now, he had pretty decent numbers if you just look at the box score on Sunday. Best game of the 4 that he's played, but he's still not shooting the ball very well. He's not making good decisions with the basketball, and it's in his head. And I think that is to Nate McMillan's credit. The guys have carried it off. You get a guy like DeAndre Hunter back, like we did from injury. He's one of your best wing defenders. We still don't have Cam Reddish, who would be doing the exact same thing if he were healthy and able to play. So the Hawks have put a great game plan together defensively, and they're executing that game plan. Capella's the rock back there under that basket. And everybody's contributed. It's been a very good defensive effort.
And Bob, when you think about Nate McMillan and obviously them buying into his philosophy, he has to take a ton of credit, even if he's been very, very complimentary of Lloyd Pierce. Do you think that Nate McMillan doing this job is just one, he's doing a good job, or 2, just the fact that the job was just a little bit too big for Lloyd Pierce at the time?
Yeah, I think they're different types of coaches. I think Lloyd is much more of a developmental coach, growing and learning as a head coach, where Nate McMillan, you're talking about a veteran player, first of all, and a veteran coach, been there, done that, seen it all, been through the playoff fires, knows what he wants. And it just seems to me that this is the perfect coach for this team at this time. I think they respect him. They lean on him for his knowledge and his wisdom. They like playing for him. He's got a tough edge to him, which I think this team needed. And I think it's just been the perfect fit. And really, it's no big indictment on Lloyd. It's just the things that I think where maybe Lloyd were the weakest, maybe Nate is the strongest, and getting his team organized defensively and learning how to, play with a fourth quarter lead and not give games away late is right up Nate's alley. So he's done a great job in my view.
Bob, you see this team night in, night out. How would you kind of describe the evolution of Trae Young and as he came in the league as a rookie to where he's playing right now?
Well, gosh, just even compared to earlier this year, I think it's night and day. He's playing at a very, very high level right now. And really a maturity, guys, that we are seeing for the first time. He's always been a turnover machine. College, first 2.5 years in this league, and Nate McMillan. This is another instance of the coach imposing his will, and he has gotten Trae to play a much more mature game. In 4 games in this series, he's got 40 assists and just 11 turnovers, and that is world class in playoff pressure. He's been outstanding. He's making the right decisions. He's obviously can hurt these guys with the float game and his jump shots and the mid-rangers and the long bombs. and all that. But I've been much more impressed with his playmaking ability. He's making the right reads consistently. They don't have anybody who can stop him. He's taking advantage of that. I think we're seeing Trae Young at a whole new level right now.
Offensively, Bob, the balance, the depth on this team. I mean, how impressive is it to watch a squad where, yes, you have a superstar or two, and Trae Young can certainly take over a game, but you have 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that can get 15 plus for you on any given night.
No question. I mean, counting Cam, we had 9 guys average double figures this season. That is unheard of depth and quality in the NBA. But I tell you, before we get to the bench, you are also seeing a guy come into his own who is going to be he's going to be our Klay Thompson, and that's Bogdan Bogdanovic. This guy is flat out on fire. He's gone 20 straight games now, guys, where he's had multiple threes. And over that stretch, he's shooting close to 47% on three-point shots. The guy's got a beautiful stroke. He's really coming on strong. He's no kid. He's 28. He's been through the fires of EuroLeague championships and all that. This is his first NBA playoff experience, but the guy is ready for prime time. Perfect counter to Trae. But then you go to veterans like Gallinari and Lou Williams coming off the bench. Fantastic. I mean, the Hawks have not had quality depth like this in a long, long time.
And Bob, I mean, that game too, that, obviously living and dying by the three is what, this Hawks team does now and again. But, barring something crazy happening, them not finishing out, closing out this Knicks team, how dangerous is this team moving forward, even though they got some much better competition to look ahead to?
Well, the closeout game's always the toughest, no doubt. But the Knicks are still the Knicks. I mean, the weaknesses that they've shown over the first 4 games are not going to go away. Now, we know that any team can come out and shoot lights out and hit 23s and the other team be off and you win the game. But all things being equal, the Knicks are still going to be the Knicks tomorrow night, and the Hawks are still going to be the Hawks. And playing at Madison Square Garden just doesn't affect them. I mean, they won game 1. You got fans spitting on our players. You got guys taking cheap shots. That didn't bother them. They had the big lead, got away from them, and couldn't recover in game 2. But they have no fear going into Madison Square Garden. And I think they're ready to play. I really do. They've got a swagger about them now that they didn't have a few weeks ago. They know they can play. And I think a lot of that, guys, is being healthy. Having their full complement of people available has meant the world. And they're in sync right now. And I am telling you guys, if Embiid is hurt, look out. Philadelphia is eminently beatable if Embiid is out of the lineup. And we may be this year's Denver. Who knows?
Hey, there's a lot to look forward to, and they can close it out, as you said, tomorrow night. They're in New York. Bob Rathman, the voice of the Hawks on Bally Sports South. Our guest, Bob, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Okay, guys. Great being with you.
Appreciate it. Bob Rathman joining us here on 3 and Out on this Tuesday. We've got more to come all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us again. Brooks Austin, giving us the interview and then dumping off and breaking all the scoop. So that's what happens here on the show on a Tuesday. But we mentioned a few minutes ago, Darion Kendrick, all ACC corner, going from Clemson to Georgia. So he'll open up against his former team. And then 2 minutes ago, Eric Gilbert going to Georgia as well. So Georgia landing two former 5-stars, one an all-ACC corner to help on the defensive side. And on the offensive side, obviously, what Brooks was alluding to when he said, Georgia may be looking to get a guy that can help in pass catching, like a receiver, a tight end, or maybe a little hybrid of both. And then 20 minutes later, the tweet comes out that they indeed got the commitment there. So a little inside from Brooks Austin there. Two big transfer gets for Georgia today.
Huge news. Huge. You think about Darion Kendrick, a guy that's being projected as a first-round pick for next year, two-time All-ACC corner, had 23 starts at Clemson, was a part of the team that won the national title in 2018, and that's your biggest position of need, arguably at corner, and he's one of the 3 or 4 best corners in the country. And then, Ben, how do you see Gilbert, who's a versatile playmaker, being used? Another just huge get for the Dogs.
It's going to be scary. I mean, you talking about him and Darnell Washington. You talking about a guy, Gilbert, I think was the number one tight end. I think a year or so ago, and I'm happy to just see the young man find a home. I know that his situation was a little bit different when you talk about why he was in the transfer portal. And understand this, I'm always rooting for guys to be able to live out, their collegiate athletic dreams, regardless of what teams they go to. I think that Kendrick provides a bigger need than Gilbert does, BJ. When you look at the fact that, let's face it, when you talk about the Georgia team, you talk about the offense, you talk about the offensive firepower, I think you got to get right.
We'll come back. We'll take 3 around the corner. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us here on this Tuesday, hour 2. A lot to get to here on the show. As again, breaking news, Georgia with 2 big transfer pickups here within the last little bit, fellas. They get the big tight end and Eric Gilbert, who might play a little wide receiver hybrid situation there, and Darion Kendrick, a transfer from Clemson, who is all ACC. So a big-time player on a national championship caliber program coming over, and then you get Eric Gilbert. BJ, how big are those two? And when you're talking about immediate impact for both of those guys, I know we talked earlier about just recruiting in general, but immediate impact, both of those guys, how big is that?
It's massive. And it's interesting because when you think about Georgia, right, a couple of hours ago, you would say, oh, yeah, undoubtedly a top 5 team, but maybe a couple of questions that sort of separate them from probably Clemson and Alabama if you were to kind of tier it out at the top. I know a lot of the preseason rankings have had either Alabama or Clemson 1, and then, maybe Ohio State or Georgia, but Georgia hasn't been 1 or 2. I think potentially, and I need some time to process this, but potentially you could reevaluate preseason rankings and say Georgia deserves to be 1 or 2, because the questions, for the most part, entering what today were what is Georgia going to do in terms of having kind of a big physical receiver, and what is Georgia going to do at corner? It's not that talent's not there. Of course, Georgia has talent, as much talent as anybody in the country. But now you've added I guess been the best way to describe him as a hybrid playmaker in Eric Gilbert, who's been very productive in the SEC, has all the measurables, and is going to be, I guess, an X receiver for you. And then Darion Kendrick is one of the top cover corners in the country. Again, a 2-time all ACC corner for Clemson, had 23 starts for the Tigers, is already being projected as a first-round pick. And not only are both these guys great players, but they're great players at positions of relative need for Georgia. So if you're a Dog fan, today is a huge day. These guys are going to be big-time playmakers for you.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby Smart and Georgia showing why they are who they are when you're talking about the recruiting world. And I think, BJ, when you talk about what Gilbert brings to the table, you talk about instant impact from a guy who's already done it in the SEC. I mean, I know that Gilbert, like I mentioned in the previous segment, I'm just happy that he's getting his life back together. I know he's a Georgia boy, close to the home, and being able to have family around you is always a big thing, and being able to touch your family is always a good thing. Kendrick, to me, it's a game changer because he makes your defense automatically incredibly better, because he's going to be your lockdown cornerback. He's going to be the guy that's going to be able to go with the opposing team's best receiver, and they literally going to look at him and say, look, take him away so we can go ahead, and orchestrate a different type of defense. Because let's face it, Georgia has a great front seven, a great cornerback, and 3 other guys who have to gel together. That's what they have right now. But I do think that, too, you give Kirby Smart a lot of credit. I mean, he knew that this time was coming. He knew, look, we're going to address these needs. I mean, how many players can say you lose a player like George Pickens and you pick up Gilbert? Not too many teams going to be able to do that. And, yes, being the flagship school in the state of Georgia definitely helps, but that don't mean you're going to get them. Being a big brand helps. That don't mean you're going to get them, because you're still competing. Gilbert can help any team. Kendrick can help any team, but I do think now when you look at what they're going to do for the rest of this time, as far as like transfer portal guys, this, that, and the third, Kendrick leaves Clemson, goes to Athens. Gilbert leaves LSU, comes back home to UGA. I do think these are 2 big needs, especially in a guy like Gilbert's situation, because they're going to play him at the X. Does that mean he stays? Does he have to lose a couple of pounds just from the wear and tear running up and down the field all the time? Or do they have a package put together? Munkin has his work cut out for him, because you got a lot of mouths to feed, ain't but one brown ball. So we'll see what happens. But hey, did I say, BJ and Kevin, that's why Georgia is who they are, $80 million indoor facilities. The top 2 guys in the transfer portal, you just got them. And this period just started.
Yeah, and again, I think what we talked about last week is this is the ability now to go out, find a position of need, and get good immediately. Whereas, say what you want. Hey, I went out and got a 5-star from high school. Okay, well, he's still got to develop and get ready to play the college game. These are guys that have been in the college game for a minute. They've had some time to go through at least practices at the college level, workout programs. These are guys who step in and immediately are ready to go, BJ. I mean, you're basically teaching them terminology and maybe how you want them to kind of play it. Other than that, they're seasoned, ready to step in and contribute day one if you had to play next week.
And coming in from championship programs that have won national titles in recent years. Kendrick won a national title at Clemson, and obviously Georgia fans know this. You open up with Clemson in a game that just got somehow even more interesting and more exciting. Maybe, who knows, but when the official polls come out, and Alabama might still be 1 or 2, but could you see 1 versus 2 in Charlotte in some form or fashion with Clemson and Georgia? But yeah, these are big time playmakers, proven at college football's highest level, guys that already have the attention clearly of the National Football League. Gilbert is going to be really fascinating to watch because he's, of course, a tight end probably by most people's estimation, but everything we're seeing and some information from Christian, it looks like, reading that he's going to be a wide receiver. And of course, the ex-wide receiver, Ben, you were talking about what that role might be, a little bit different than what Jermaine Burton, for example, might be asked to do, but just another option for Monken. And then I just think Kendrick is a true cornerback one. You think about guys that are locked down. I mean, outside of Derek Stingley and maybe a handful of other guys, you're talking about a guy that's as good as anybody in the country. And Kendrick has All-American ability, first-round ability. He's 6 foot, 190. And I know a lot of the modern corners to match up with guys who are 6'4", 6'5", need to have that size. This is a big day for Georgia. This is absolutely a big day for Georgia football.
I'm really, really interested to see how they use Gilbert, because just because you say you're going to be playing X, that's not playing X. Like it's a total different world out there. And I put in the chat, this is the Kyle Pitts effect. I mean, you look at what Kyle Pitts meant for the tight end position last year. Now everybody, Kevin, just like everybody's looking for Nick Saban Jr. Well, now we're looking for Kyle Pitts Jr. in a sense. And I'm not saying Eric Gilbert he's a man all of himself. I'm not comparing him to nobody else. But when see how everything feels good now. Hey man, we're gonna move Eric Gilbert to the X. Has he ever played X before? No. Do you know what the X got to do? Mm-mm. But does he have the ability? Yes. And that's all you really need. All I'm saying is, when people ask, what does going forward look like? This is what it looks like. A team that didn't have a lot of holes to fill, you get a top 5 corner, you get the number one tight end in the country just a year removed who was trying to find a home. I think that Georgia's a team that's, but once again, we will learn a lot about Georgia week 1 because it feels good now. But if you don't get that dub week 1, it's gonna be much to do about nothing. I'm telling you, because it don't matter. It don't matter who you can beat. Can you beat the teams that have to meet the talent threshold? We will see week 1.
Yeah, right out of the gate, as you said, as if it couldn't get any more interesting. Now you have a young man who just played for Clemson, going against Clemson to try to keep them from winning there in Charlotte in week number 1, and what could be certainly for Georgia because of the SEC. A playoff caliber football game. I think everybody largely believes as long as Clemson doesn't lose, 40-3 or something like that, they can overcome that loss by running the table in the ACC, which the ACC's got some teams on the rise, but nowhere near the level of Clemson as far as that's concerned. So huge game for Georgia. And as you said, BJ, couldn't quite possibly get more interesting, but here it is. It did.
College football was already ready for this one, and now you're talking about more, if possible, expectations for Georgia, and a storyline with one of the best players in the country, a guy who's going to be one of the best players on the field, and Darion Kendrick in this one. This is going to be an interesting sort of reevaluation period over the next couple of days for national pundits and Georgia. And what I mean by that is, you see the preseason polls that are released in around spring. Then you see them, around this time of year. Then you see them again in a month. And sometimes teams will move a spot or two based on transfers. As I mentioned, don't be surprised if you see Georgia preseason 2 or preseason 1 in some of these polls after the news today. And again, it depends on a lot of things. There's no perfect way of interpreting how 2 players changes Georgia as Georgia compares to Clemson or Alabama. But I do think if you thought there was a a decently wide gap, and I think a lot of people did as of yesterday. I don't know that there's much of a gap anymore, because not only did you, and I'm talking about on paper, of course, not only did you get two really good players, but you got two really good players at positions of need. And I think that's equally as important than when you think about the impact of these two players.
Yeah, BJ, but this is the thing, too. Georgia's filling needs. Do Alabama got a need? Nope. Does Clemson have a need? Mm-mm. Does Ohio State have a need? Mm-mm. And think about this, and I mean this. If Mr. Gilbert had to pick between Georgia and Alabama, see, that's a different decision to make, right? But Georgia was the only one need this. And all I'm saying is this makes Georgia better. Does that make them better than the teams that was already number one, number two? Mm-mm. And that's what people got to realize. Because this is the thing. Gilbert's going to play X. He got to blend in, right? Mr. Kendrick is already number one corner on the team. He's never played for yet. So don't think you just play and plug them because they five-star recruit. They still got to blend into these systems. I think they're going to blend in just fine. But understand, Georgia has positions of need. Alabama don't. We just want to see Bryce Young, right? Clemson, we already seen DJU. Spencer Rattler is, cream of the crop. I'm just saying the teams that can beat them can still beat them. But it's going to make the game more intriguing, and adding these type of weapons definitely going to make the game way more competitive. But like I said, BJ, you said it on paper, woo, people look good. But when they go blue 42, them live bullets.
No, sure. But let me say this. This is what I mean by that is if you would have asked most people, and we get to talk to a lot of college football pundits on the show as of kind of yesterday. Why isn't Georgia in the preseason on the same level as Alabama or Clemson? If you felt that way, and I think most polls have reflected that. I think the most common answers you would have gotten are, well, what are they going to do without George Pickens? And, what about the inexperience at corner? Those would have been the two most common responses you would get from people. And I think now you reevaluate how you answer those questions, because you've added a guy that has NFL ability as a hybrid playmaker on offense, and you've added one of the top corners in the country. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not sitting here saying on June 1st, Georgia's gonna beat Clemson. But what I am saying is the questions you had when you looked at Georgia and compared Georgia to Alabama or Clemson or Oklahoma yesterday, there's a lot more kind of competitiveness, at least in theory, when you look at those teams now today.
No, I agree with you. I'm just saying, but I mean, Kevin the Beach, all I'm saying is this. I mean, it ain't like Nick Saban nervous. It ain't like Dabo's nervous. It ain't like Coach Day is nervous. It ain't like – so all I'm saying is the same teams you had to compete with before the day are the same teams you got to compete with after the day. It's not like those teams are going away. Because like we said, when we mention certain teams, that's they need this, they need that. What does Alabama need? I don't know. I mean,
more five stars.
We'll see.
More future pros waiting to play.
those guys ain't got no pros, man. They took a year off last year. Good God.
Yeah. And again, so Georgia upgrading in a big way. We'll continue to follow that story, but obviously the dead period open, first time you can have recruits on campus. We'd heard Brooks also say Georgia was hosting some 200 high school athletes here. Once the dead period is now officially over, and today add two huge transfers in Darion Kendrick and Eric Gilbert into the mix. So much more to get to here on 3 and Out. We'll take three when we return. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Tuesday, Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Glad you're with us. Of course, the breaking news, Georgia landing Eric Gilbert and Darion Kendrick right there before the top of the hour, that news breaking. So we went ahead and talked about that, the very latest there at the top of hour 2. So that brings you take 3 now here on 3 and Out. All right, interesting discussion I had with Christian before the show about just you get in the spring and you get to different kind of sports that are put out there. Can any sport grab your attention, at least for a little bit, if it's in its version of the playoffs?
I mean, I would like to say yes, but the first example that I can think of is that I just can't get into is hockey. And I do respect the game, but I was telling you, Kevin, in the show meeting, I don't understand the rules. And I think and it's hard to see the puck, right? So it's like when I'm watching hockey, I want to get excited. I want to get into it. It's like, oh man, this is what a game 7 you have as teams are vying for the Stanley Cup. It's like, yeah, that's a big deal. But I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on, and I can't follow the ball or the puck.
You don't need to know what's happening.
I don't care what you say, because you may say this on the show. If there's some sort of soccer playoff going on, you are not watching it. You are not watching it. You are lying if you say you are.
Can any sport grab my attention? I would say no, not any sport. But the thing is, I mean, Kevin, I think you were talking about like Frisbee or something like that.
The NCAA championship and ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah. Because I think that now they got like what's the little game where you got the little like sandbags, you throwing them in the hole. What's the little? They got cornhole. So stuff like stuff that in my mind probably shouldn't be a championship. I can watch it because I'm like this. See. This is gonna really mess it up. We're like, listen, man, you got to be a well-conditioned athlete. Dad, I'm a cornhole player. Really? Yeah, I got so stuff like that. Yes, but I'm like BJ. Look, number one, I share your enthusiasm, Kevin. I'm not watching playoff soccer. I'm not watching regular soccer. I'm definitely not watching it with BJ. Why? Because BJ started talking to me about it. I'm like, that's not gonna make me want to watch it. But I would say playoffs do make any sport better, but grabbing my attention because it's better, no.
I would say more often than not, yes. Soccer example is bad, but everything else. Like, I don't know the rules to this either, but I did watch the NCAA championships of spike ball. I don't have any clue what they're doing, but I watched it, and it was kind of cool for 15 minutes. I was like, I'm down.
Let me put a caveat in there for you, Kevin, because I think we're on the same link for the most part until you exclude soccer. I don't care what sport it is, so long as it's like win or go home. I'm into it, and I will learn the rules on the fly. I cannot tell you how curling works. I don't know what the rules are for curling, but I will sit there.
But if it's win or go home curling,
if the men or women playing curling have United States of America on their chest, I'm about that action. I'm watching it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't care what's happening. But Kevin, if it's soccer and it's the United States of America with a chance to win a championship, are you watching it?
Let's talk about real things.
You just hate soccer.
No, I'm saying
you just hate soccer. You're just a hater.
I just stole a quote from DJ Bennett on the show. No, look.
So if it's America, I don't care if it's the World Championship of grocery shopping. If America is I'm watching it.
Christian, have you ever listened to the show? Like, we've gone over this hundreds of times, and Kevin roots for America
I just
to
like
lose.
making him say that he's un-American.
It's not un-American.
Yeah, it is.
It's really not.
You don't support our players.
Do I need to?
Yes.
Are they asking me for those support?
They're your fellow Americans.
I mean, Christian, the U.S. national team.
With the hockey thing, because what if it's Team USA versus Canada in the gold medal match? You're not riding with that?
No, I am. What I'm talking about is playoff hockey. Yes, I'm rooting for Team USA, but I'm talking about playoff hockey like in the NHL. I don't know what I'm watching, if I'm being honest, and it's hard for me to get into it. That's all I'm saying.
The reason why you didn't know what you was watching because you was on the wrong channel. Isn't the NHL on the golf channel? So you got to be on the golf channel.
That's not true TV.
That is a very true take. No, I've watched like sudden death lumberjacking before. Like, if it's like last man standing, I mean,
what about this penalty shootout in soccer?
I mean, I'll watch it. I do think that's like the most arbitrary thing in all of sports, because if you've ever stood in the goalie box on a penalty shot, it's like it's 100% luck how it turns out. You either guess right and you look like you're awesome, or they just flat shake.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much hitting in baseball for the most part. You're just you're sitting there, and if you guess fastball and you hit a fastball, you look smart. But if you guess fastball and it's a breaking ball, you look real stupid.
And like, have you stood like in the goal?
Kevin,
like,
I played soccer.
I played soccer. It's like,
oh my God, he reveals it.
No, I've said it's fun to play. It's horrible to watch.
Kevin Thomas, soccer stan.
Yeah, exactly. No,
it's like literally you're describing baseball.
I just think to decide the championship in soccer to go to that, it's like, to me, it would be like people have suggested, like just have home run derby in baseball. It's like the most arbitrary thing you could possibly do. I think if you're the goaltender, you're like, right, and hope, and that's about all you can do.
It's a keeper in soccer.
Whatever.
Tenders are in hockey.
Goalkeeper. He can still goalie. That's what we called him shorthand back in the day. So
that's a goalie.
Step off.
It's a keeper.
Play goalie. It's fine. What's the first part of GK in your abbreviation? Goal. Goalie. It's short. It's a term of endearment that we've come up with. That's all it is.
Yeah, but you said GK. It's not GT. It's not goaltender.
Don't matter. Goalie.
Carry on.
That's your job. All right, moving along. Take two. More crazy fans this weekend. Boston had a dude arrested for throwing a water bottle at Kyrie Irving, and a fan was tackled, as he should have been, while running on the court during the 76ers and Wizards game. What can the NBA do about that? Because right now they're the ones that are garnering all the attention for fan unruliness.
Yeah, it's alarming, and I think you're banned. I obviously for life. I think you pursue legal options because you don't know what's going on there, and I think you got to have security prevalent almost throughout, especially because you were talking about this, Kevin, during the show meeting. When you think about basketball, you have kind of direct access, and with football, obviously, you have a barrier of some sorts. With baseball, you actually have a netting, right, around like a fair portion, if not all of the infield. And I just think it's startling when you see that. And I don't know if increased, courtside or kind of field side security can control this. Ben, when you play, I don't know how many, how prevalent that was. I do think the punishment has to be, absolutely, hey, you're never coming back here. And, the police are going to be involved in all this and that. But I just think, these incidents are very troubling. And I think, the security, being what? Paramount has to be a leading thought when you think about protecting players and making sure people aren't coming onto the court, coming onto the floor, coming onto the field.
I just think that you got to have security guards that have a longer attention span, because the whole thing about it is when all these years go by, ain't no incidents happen. Think about it, ain't no incidents happen, right? Sometimes you forget why you're here, like your security. Meaning what? There was a dude running on the court. Yes. Listen to me. If I even walk towards the court, they'd be like, no, sir, where you gonna see that? I'm up. Get back up there. Get back up. I'm just saying because, and let's face it, these bribes got to be pretty good. I do not believe that guy that got on the court did not bribe somebody, and I'm not mad at the security guard for taking the bribe. He probably ain't gonna be working today. But I just think that sometimes, BJ, when you ain't had an incident in a long time, you might think you better at your job than what you really are. Nope. But that guy who ran the court look athletic to you, didn't look athletic to me. Look like he had some little bribe money. So all I'm saying, can't do nothing about the guy that threw the bottle outside. He need to get the hell beat out of him. And then the guy that did the popcorn, he's petty, he's gone. But guys running on the floor, that's strategy, people. That's timing. These security guards got to be like, hey, dude, keep eyeing me. Listen, you know who we need to get? We need to get Papa B. If Papa B security was out there, I bet you nobody. Not only are people not in the stands, he didn't even let them in the arena. Forget that. I don't like how they look at. So we need some security detail, like threat deficit. I mean, BJ, I'm just saying, BJ, we need more attention to detail, because if you are a security guard at the Staples Center and somebody's running out there, that is your fault. You did not do like a bodyguard. If I got a bodyguard and he get knocked out, he can't guard me no more. He quit. He got knocked out.
Far be it from me to be contrarian on this thing, but I mean, like, I get people throwing stuff. Yeah, you're gone. Like, by and large, people that run on the court are just morons and not doing anything. But
dangerous.
I will say, do what now?
It's dangerous, man.
It is, but I will say, I'm also an advocate of, if you are on the field court, it's open game. It's like, how many licks does it take to knock drunken Bob out? We're going to find out. I mean, I like, look, I also think if you're out there on the court, because we don't know why you're out there, albeit you could just be like the dude at the Super Bowl who's like, I'm going to run naked right there, right all over the field. He was wearing a thong. Okay. Well, I mean, you run around. It's like, by and large, you're just there because you're drunk trying to see if I can get on camera or TV or whatever, or become, Instagram or whatever, Snapchat famous. Hey, look, I got video of the dude running across the field. Whatever. But I do think it's open game on you doing that. Now, the throwing stuff, yeah, you can't do that. Those folks should
Kyrie ain't even look. He just
come back fine and probably, some other things.
No. I just want the listeners to know that the great Kevin Thomas said the man was running naked. For those of you who don't know what it means, that means
I'm telling you, you end all of this with just one time. Let the guy run onto the court and have the backup center just end him. Like, just
I just said that.
I'm talking like rated R devastation.
If you're on the field, it's open game. Yeah, I totally agree.
Because it's like they'll teach everybody like, maybe we shouldn't run on the court. But if you don't want to go that barbaric with it, I think the obvious answer here is hire Cody Queen as your security expert and have him train your security guards and oversee security operations for the entire NBA.
No. If they want to be theatrical and run on courts and fields, we should be. Now, somebody go this. Listen, they run on the field, they run on the court. He gets Goldberg, just bam. He ain't moving. Somebody throw him a mic. He turned to the rock. If anybody else run out here, this is what's gonna happen to you. You see him? This is what, because we're too nice, right? It's all this, help him up. No, knock him the hell out and look at the crowd, go boom, and look at the crowd and go, if you think about running out here, this is what will happen to you. I'm just telling you, Kevin, because Kevin, you're a baseball coach. A random fan, a random, opposing team members, family member running at you, and you're gonna say, "Oh, this guy, he just being." No, you finna go. If he gets close to me, he's going down. I'm just saying, Kevin.
I'm here for that. I'm here for if you run on the field. I don't care who gets to you first. You're open game because you shouldn't be there. Like I 100%. Agree with that. I'm not even going against that. But I do think there's, certain fans, and again, maybe it's just because of, I don't know. I know Kevin Durant said like, "Hey, everybody's been cooped up," and come on.
No, you're a jerk.
There's certain guys that are like, "Hey, if they wanted to," it's part of the fan experience, I think, to not only boo and yell at players, like, let's see if we can clown them or whatever on their way off the court and just do different things that are way beyond the pale. And they deserve to be fined, kicked out, never allowed back. And potentially, depending on what they do, you might face a prosecution on it because, again, you hurl a 3/4 full water bottle from the 37th row hard enough to get down to the court. I'm sorry, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, it's battery.
Big time.
Yeah. But my question is this, why do we treat the courts and the fields any different than an office space? Like if somebody ran into our studio right now, Cody's dropping them.
Yeah.
Like
something French.
You don't treat them nice.
Why is everybody looking at me? I'm 100% on board with that. You get on the field, it's like knock him out, like it's fine.
Kevin said 30 seconds in Studio 2 with Cody.
No. Think about this. Kevin, okay, it's time for Kevin to make a statement. The Braves are playing the Yankees. Would Kevin Thomas run right at Aaron Judge? No. You're not going to run right at him for the fear that he's going to. But if you know that Aaron's not going to do anything, you might run at him. Street rules. Remember I talked about club rules? Would you do this to me on the street? Well, don't do it to me because we're not in the street. Don't feel good. If you ain't going to do it to me in the street, don't do it to me in public because you will get maylayed.
And on the heels of that, where we're now advocating for fans to get beaten up, it's National Say Something Nice Day. Yeah. So take three. You have to say something nice. This is like the worst day of the year. Say something nice about your co-host.
All right. For Kevin, I was going to say a number of different things. I've been thinking, and I was really leaning in on he's a good listener because he is. When you're talking with Kevin will listen. Now, he may not like what he's hearing, or he may be looking at you and saying something in his head like this is I. But Kevin will hear you out. He'll listen to what you're saying. Good listener. But then I was thinking, no, you guys mentioned it, and you talk about it every day on the show. Kevin's developing like a pretty substantial reputation for his coaching ability, for his scouting ability. You're talking about you're talking about a well-respected baseball mind, and the ability to look and say, okay, that curveball goes 32 miles an hour, but that slider might be 34 miles an hour.
He's a Billy Bean.
So
No, I'm not.
Little League Baseball.
Yeah. So I think the baseball scouting ability for Kevin, and then Ben, you know what I'm talking about. You have a unique ability to motivate me, where it's like I'll be feeling bad, sitting at home, and I'll get a phone call from you, and I'll pick up, or I'll be asleep, and it'll be, and instead of saying, "Hey, how are you?" or "What's going on?" it's, "And what are you doing?"
I mean,
Get up out of bed. But look, I need that sometimes, and you'll hit me with the get up out of bed. Nope, don't want to hear it. Nope. And that's something that I need sometimes. So I really appreciate that. But very rarely you get to the point on the phone. If you haven't heard from me in a while, I'll pick up. Hello, what? What's the deal? What's your problem? So those are my compliments for both of you today. Compliments.
For me, let's see. With Kevin, right? And Kevin is the homie. I mean, this will make me laugh. Christian, right, has developed a unique ability to get under Kevin's skin, right? And it's because it's been developed over time. But I will say this: Kevin is consistent. The only reason why I know Kevin be doing baseball tournaments is because of the misses. All Kevin does is take pictures. I will be in the picture. I'm not taking a picture. I'm not doing it. You will not see this. If Kevin Thomas have a selfie, it is a fill-in. He did not do it. And plus, if you got a 12-year-old that got a nice change-up, I'll give you Kevin Thomas' phone number again. Now, with BJ, look, what can I say nice about BJ?
Holy cow! Y'all are so bad at this.
No. Hold on.
Nice thing about each of your co-hosts. Kevin's over here like he's about to take a math final, like sweating. He's nervous. Ben's compliment for Kevin was that he's consistent. Consistent isn't a compliment. You can say he's bad. Like consistent's not a compliment.
I will say this.
Consistently what?
Consistently himself.
What is that? That could not be a compliment. What if you don't like Kevin? Then that's not a compliment.
No. But I do like Kevin.
It's fine if you don't.
I love Kevin. I'm just saying.
I've never seen Kevin this nervous. Like Kevin's literally nervous about saying something nice about another person.
Listen, I'm glad. We say nice things about each other all the time. I mean, what do you mean?
Really? Because all I get is vitriol.
Whoa! Are you talking about me?
From everybody.
I haven't heard one nice thing about me yet from anybody.
Hold on. And just because we're on the subject, vitriol is bad, right? That's not good. Because I can't spell vitriol. It's spelled with a B. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying, Christian, number one. Christian, what can I say? Listen.
You don't have to say anything about me. Say something about BJ. It's
okay. Well, listen. With BJ, I think that BJ, he's got a little looser. Like he ain't as uptight, man. He's cool now, man. Like he's trying to be a little more easy going. I mean, I'm just saying he don't use
about BJ's. He's less nerdy. All right, Kevin.
Whoa. Who said BJ's less nerdy? You did. No,
right,
I said he's a little Christian. You don't think BJ's a little looser? Not on the text messages. I'm just saying in person.
No, I mean BJ's BJ. I love BJ. I love all.
Hold on. Now get this. I just said that Kevin is consistent, and Christian goes BJ's BJ. I told you these are compliments.
I always like BJ. Like period. End of story. Yeah. Kevin, go ahead.
What?
Come on. Kevin, say something
Look
nice.
Look at the time. We're way over.
No, Kevin, say something nice about BJ. Say something nice about Ben. I will screw up your clock. I don't care about it.
You're willing to throw the show into the abyss.
I will pay for the spots that our clients miss.
Ooh.
There you go. No. I'm trying to figure out what because if I say something like, that's not something nice.
Don't turn this around on me.
Trait. No,
don't turn this around on me. Say it's not hard.
It is. It isn't hard. I agree. I'm saying, like, look, my thing nice about Ben is.
Oh my God.
What? I haven't even said anything yet, and I'm already like, oh, geez.
Stumbling. It's like.
My nice thing about Ben is he is a ride or die for pretty much everybody he's friends with.
There we go.
It's like, hey, if you need something, Ben's like, I got you. Like, I think that's true. He's shaking his head. See, like, it's so different too because I'm not like looking at his in the face.
But it's true.
It's true. That is very good. And I will say, Now BJ's getting really.
Oh no!
Now I will say, I will say this, and I do mean this in a nice way. I do mean this as a compliment.
Oh, wait! If you have to phrase
Because
your
I'm going to
compliment
say it,
as
and I'm going to say it, and everybody's going to take it the wrong way. I'm just going to say it. But BJ, to me, in this, I mean this as a compliment because I honestly do. BJ, and we got to get a break. BJ is you are a challenging person towards people. Like, no, I'm saying, like, no, I'm serious. Like BJ will challenge you on everything you say as far as what you believe, why you believe it, and make you kind of stand firm in why you're saying what you're saying. I think that's a great character trait.
That is. Look at BJ.
That wasn't even meant to be disrespectful. I'm getting chastised in the studio.
You're not. That was beautiful. I just loved how nervous you were about complimenting other people.
BJ with the
I need a bath now.
I feel like a therapist where I'm gonna be like, Kevin, your thing is you have to say one nice thing about BJ and Ben every day.
And this would be something that's like, I can't believe like somebody would have to pay to like draw that out. That's rough.
Yeah. You okay? You feel okay?
I need a break.
I was deep.
We got 3 now. I guess Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Tuesday. After all of that and take 3, we will get Ben's weekend wrap up here quickly. Ben, we'll have 3 questions for you. We'll get your answer in as timely a fashion as possible. This weekend's biggest performance was what?
The big 3. I mean, when you look at what Kevin Durant and what James Harden and what Kyrie Irving are doing for them Brooklyn Nets, I think it's a beautiful thing to watch. I think 42 by Kevin Durant. I think 39 by Kyrie. And I think another 28 by James Harden. Can't stop those 3 when they're at their best.
Great performance there over the weekend. All right, you're eager to see this team's next game.
Them A-Town down boys. I mean, everybody trying to, the national narrative all of a sudden is, oh, well, Atlanta was supposed to do this. Atlanta was supposed to do what? A team that was supposed to scratch and claw to even be the 8th seed is now beating up, on the team from the Mecca. No, I want to see them A-Town down boys go ahead and put, rounding those guys out of their misery. Trae Young, act like you better say his name with some respect on it.
And he has played really huge the entire series. All right, and finally, again, we do Ben's weekend wrap-up. BEN, we had the biggest performance. Eager to see this team's next game. And the N is nothing was funnier this weekend than what?
Russell Westbrook, he is shooting a free throw, and then after he shoots the free throw, Dwight Howard jumps up on the rim and hangs on it. He's complaining to the ref like he just got flagrant fouled out there. You gotta love Russell Westbrook. He is a competitor to the end. He made that series go. It's gonna go 5 games now. So instead of getting swept, they're gonna lose 4-1. But I gotta love Russell Westbrook, always playing every second, never ever cheating the game.
Great moments there this weekend. BJ, anything to add on the back of that as Ben's picks here for the weekend wrap-up?
Oh, I just wanted to say I thought I was really good this segment, provided a lot of perspective and insight and information. No, real quick, Ben, because this is your segment. Dan Mullen gets an extension today, 3 years. Your thoughts on that?
I think that Dan Mullen is a guy to where I think when they're looking down the road, they're saying, can we get anybody better than him? I would say no. I'm happy at the fact that he's got, another $1.5 million to go with his already, $5-6 million. So the rich keep getting richer. But guess what? No more B teams, no more Dark Vaders. You better find a way to beat them boys from Athens who keep on adding 5 stars because nobody want to hear excuses from a guy who's adding $1.5 million to already $6 million. Shout out to the man, Dan Mullen. Man, let me hold something.
Yeah, no kidding. And again, I think that's what you saw some Florida fans upset at the Mullen extension. I'm like, you just went through Jim McElwain and all that.
Talk to him, Kevin.
Again, well, I'm saying, but everybody's sitting there like, oh, this bit. We'll just go get the next Saban. There's always the next Saban. Nick Saban is not going anywhere. I mean, if we want to even be disrespectful enough as to classify that and say, oh, just go get the next Saban. I mean, who is the next Saban? Dabo not leaving.
Lincoln Riley, no, just got extension.
I mean, as far as recruiting, but Kirby Smart minus the championships could be, I guess, but he's not leaving. I mean, you're not just going to go out and we'll just get the Nick Saban type. No, I mean, you have Dan Mullen, who is a proven winner at everywhere he's been. Let him work the job there at Florida. I thought a good move there by the Gators.
We spoiled. We entitled. And I'm for real. I mean, I love the fan base. I love Florida, but I just think the fans we are the best and the worst. We talk each other off the same ledge that we build every single week. So you're like, yeah, you don't like the Dan Mullen got his money. Who you want to get? Crickets. Would you want to call Chip Kelly? How's that going to UCLA? Just calm down. I mean, but this is what happens though, Kevin. When you're a team that's good enough to do it and you haven't done it, get that bread.
All right, we've got more to come. 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Oh, man, we got more to come here on 3 and Out. We are up against it here in hour 2 because of the niceties we were sharing with one another. We kind of what was that face there, BJ?
It's just a face. I mean, it's just my face.
But we'll get to more of that in the final hour. We also have Julio Jones. Is he going to be traded? Is he not? Obviously, a lot of folks thought maybe today or tomorrow might be the day. What does Atlanta really have in the bank potentially for Julio Jones in a trade? We'll get to that coming up in the final hour, as well as we talked about all the transfers coming in at Georgia this afternoon. Who's got the biggest shoes to fill in 2021? Filling in for a guy who is now departed as we get you ready for Braves and Nationals tonight as well. Max Fried, Steven Strasburg, Braves with a win yesterday. Got more good starting pitching, bullpen effort, and enough offense to get the job done. Maybe a chance to get on a little run here against the Nationals, whom they've treated very Marlins-like in 2021 thus far. 6-1 against the Nationals here so far in 2021. We've got more to come. Final hour. It's 3 and Out. Around the corner, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio, streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Final hour around the corner. Final hour here of 3 and Out. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. So much to get to here in the final hour. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. You can see us streaming live as well on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Comment there in the comment section. We'll bring it here on the show. But here's June 1st, the day we waited for. Falcons fans out there to see what will happen potentially with Julio Jones. Nothing has happened as of 5:04 at this point. But a lot of speculation that Julio Jones is going to be traded. Maybe the Falcons have a number 1 pick in the fold. New teams have come to light. The Seahawks have been one that's gotten a lot of traction here over the weekend. But BJ and Ben, do you believe reports that the Falcons have a first rounder apparently in the fold, or that they think they can really get a first rounder and players, by the way? Saw several reports say the Falcons are looking to get a first rounder and players for Julio Jones.
Of course I do, because the thing about it is, it's not like Julio Jones isn't an effective player. It's not like Julio Jones can't benefit the services of 31 other teams. I just think that Terry Fontenot and these guys are making sure that when they before they make this deal, it's benefiting them. It's not about Julio at this point. Julio is a tradable piece. Kevin, something you always talking about, with Braves players. I think that's what's going on right now with Julio. It's one, they're doing right by him when they don't have to. But I think what's scaring teams not being talked about, Julio might want a new contract. Now, that ain't got nothing to do with the Falcons. The Falcons are just trying to get rid of this debt, get rid of this money. They got to use this player to do it. But I do think, a first rounder, maybe a couple of guys that can play both offense, defense, and special teams. I think that's more than fair for a guy of Julio's caliber, because they know that Julio is going to make whatever team he goes to an instant Super Bowl contender because of his play, at the receiver position. So yeah, BJ, I wouldn't be surprised that Terry Fontenot, phone wasn't ringing before the draft, but now this June 1st should be ringing off the hook. Now it's who and if my, going back to my NFL days, I just think that they already got a deal set. They're just waiting to finalize it. And I do think Julio Jones warrants whatever they get.
I think if you can get a first-round pick, that would be pretty good return. When you talk about Julio Jones, yes, one of the best receivers in the National Football League. There's no doubt about it. But you're talking about I don't know how much leverage you have because teams know that, look, you don't have the money to re-sign Julio Jones if you want to sign your draft picks. So you don't have a ton of leverage. You mentioned Julio in the contract situation. How do other teams view that? Obviously, he's not, 25, 26. And I just think, you look at trades over the years involving a veteran and a draft pick. For guys who are really good, you don't always get a first-round pick just because of the leverage and just because of the, the money aspect of it. So I think if Atlanta can get a first-round pick, and those aren't all the same, right? I mean, if you get a top 15 pick, that's different than having pick 28, 29, 30. I would imagine that you're trading Julio to a team that is a contending team. So when you talk about a first-round pick, it would probably be 25, 26, 27, somewhere in that range. But I think if you can get a first-round pick, that's a really good return. Ben, in terms of, Kevin, can you get a first-round pick and players? I think that would be tough for a couple of reasons. Ben, what team is going to be willing to do that? And then keep in mind, if you trade Julio Jones and get players in return, you're pretty tight as it is salary-wise, and you're going to have to then pay those players that are coming to your team. So I think if you could get a first-round pick, that would be, all things considered, you hate to see Julio go, but that would be a pretty good return.
Yeah, but the thing is too, what's the on the movie Moneyball? What was the GM's name?
Billy Beane.
Billy Beane. Remember the part of the movie where Billy Beane was talking to David Jesse? He goes, "No, I'm paying you to be the player you like. I'm not paying for who you were. I'm paying for what you got left." That's what we need to understand about Julio too. Whoever getting him, they getting the player that's left in him, not the player he's been. It's like, listen, if I was great in my previous job, you're not benefiting from that work experience. You're not. You getting what I am now. So the thing is, that's what holds it up. Because when Jalen Ramsey left and got traded, the first thing Sean McVay asked him was, "You're not gonna do that stuff you did in Jacksonville right now, because we're gonna have to pay you. You acting like this before the money, Antonio Brown. You're supposed to act like this after the money." The thing about Julio is, what would make every time Julio hears his name, you know what they hear? Top one, top two receiver, top one, top two receiver. You know them? More money. So the team that's getting him is going to probably have to deal with that. They might get a Julio we never saw in Atlanta. They might get a more chatty Julio, or more I want my money Julio, I want this grunt on Julio. But for Terry Fontenot, BJ, I do think they still got leverage because Julio was still one of the best players in the league, period. Forget position. He's one of the best players. So getting a player won't be as hard because whoever you get, it's going to be like it's going to be one of those things where a salary cap type player. It ain't going to be no, once again, and I use these terms loosely. He ain't going to be $1 million guy. He'll be a $700,000 guy, and that's good money as well. But I just think that Terry Fontenot, to me, deserves a lot of credit for how he played this. I do believe he wanted to trade Julio before the draft, no suitors, because once again he go, oh yeah, by the way, you got to give him $15 million this year. Hello, that's just this year, and that's previous years coming. So I give Atlanta a lot of credit because Terry Fontenot first draft, Kyle Pitts check, because he knew he had to get rid of Julio. Think about it. We get number 8 because we got to get rid of number 11.
Well, I mean, I think they obviously BJ are sticking to their guns on this one with the first round pick, and people may say, well, why are you holding out for the first round pick? Well, I mean, if Julio wants to go to a contender, and that's where it's going to end up, right? I mean, people say Seahawks, Patriots, whatever. If he wants to go to a contender, you're not getting a top 5 pick. You're probably getting a 20 to 32 pick, right? And you say, okay, well, quit being, so stuck in your ways on getting a number 1 pick. Fine, we take another number. We'll take a number 2. Now you're talking about close to the 55th to 60th type pick. That's a big difference in terms of the player you're going to be able to get, taking those kind of things. I think you take that into account. It's like, hey, we'll take a second round pick from the Jags. Why? Because there's a great chance they're going to be picking in the top 5 of every round. I'm not taking a second round pick from the Kansas City Chiefs if they want Julio Jones. Why? Because that's like the last pick in the second round. I'll take your first round pick. I'm player number 32. So I think Atlanta's really seems to be, from everything I'm reading about this, sticking to their guns on, we want a first round pick and we're willing to sit here until somebody finally caves and gives it to us. And that's an interesting spot to be in. But for now, I guess still early in the game, if you're Atlanta, I guess you could restructure Grady Jarrett. I was reading some stuff. Hey, restructure Grady Jarrett. You can still get your rookie signed. Okay. But they want to move Julio Jones. Make no mistake about that. But they seem to be very entrenched on, we want the first round pick, and that we're not willing to come off of.
Well, and I understand that. And to keep this in mind as well, though, when you think about a first-round pick, and it's hard to project a year into the future, much less a couple of years into the future, but it may not necessarily be a 2022 first-round pick. It may be a 2023 first-round pick, or who knows, a 2024 first-round pick. I know we all saw the rumors about Seattle, right? And Atlanta and Seattle talking about Julio Jones. Seattle does not have a first-round pick for 2022. So I would just keep that in mind for Falcons fans. It may not be an immediate pick in the upcoming draft. It may be in the years to follow. That's a possibility.
Yeah, but the whole thing about it is, too, the one thing about having picks, that gives you leverage. It shouldn't matter what the first round. The thing about it is this. Who was the 32nd pick in the draft, 4 years ago? That's Lamar Jackson. I think he worked out pretty well for the Ravens. You can still get quality in the first round. I just think that for Terry Fontenot, he's going to need future picks. And you're right, BJ. When you talk about these front offices and the way they structure these contracts and the language of them, you need future picks. This Atlanta team got a player in his 30s that don't play quarterback that you can get a first round pick for. There ain't too many players that you're gonna get that for that don't play quarterback. People go, how did Jared Goff get a first round pick? Plays quarterback. How did Matthews? First quarterbacks. They are the best position and the hardest position and the most pivotal position. I got a receiver who every great receiver was predicated on a great quarterback. Name me a great receiver didn't have a great guy throwing to him. Well, DeAndre Hopkins, he had it for like 3 or 4 years. But I'm just saying, like, the fact that you can get a first round pick shouldn't matter where. It should, because that's ability, because you still gonna have your first round pick. So that'd be 2. It shouldn't matter where you get them, man. If you can get them, you can move up and use that stuff as leverage. Because the thing is this, Matty Ice, they ain't get a quarterback this year. That's not gonna be the norm in these next drafts moving forward. You're gonna need as many picks to make sure you get the guy that you cover.
Well, and picks not only give you leverage, they give you flexibility. Because I know you've talked about this, both you guys have, in terms of we don't always, as fans, think about football from the cap standpoint. We think about it from the player's standpoint. Well, if you have a starter, and if you take somebody in the first round or the high second round, they're probably starting. That gives you more flexibility financially, because you're going to have a rookie on a rookie deal, a multi-year deal, a team-controlled deal. Whereas if you're having to go out and sign a free agent or trade for somebody, the contractual aspect could be a lot more wide-ranging. And I think that's something to keep in mind with the Julio Jones trade as well, because we all say, hey, 31 other teams could use Julio Jones. Yes, but 31 other teams cannot afford him. So when you think about the trade destinations, you can really identify a couple of teams, because you're not going to trade Julio Jones, obviously, to a team like the Jaguars. You mentioned, Kevin. It's going to be a contending team. It's going to be a team that can afford him. And if you look at the cap space of all the teams that are kind of in that category, not everybody can absorb a $15 million contract for this year, but next year, potentially the year after. So it's going to have to be the right fit. This is going to be something that I think all sides want to get done, but it's not going to be just as easy as, trade him to this team and we'll figure it out. No, a lot of pieces have to fit together here.
I saw something on Twitter. Somebody was saying, if the Tennessee Titans go out there and get Julio Jones, they betting it all for the next 2 years to not even make the playoffs for the next 8. Yes, yes. If I'm not gonna make the playoffs for the next 8 years and I can make the Super Bowl the next 2, it is worth it. Because, and BJ, I think you make a great point. $15 million. If 15 guys make $1 million a year, that's 15 players you could have signed for one guy. But most guys ain't making $1 million. You can sign 30 guys for $15 million. They're making $500,000. But the problem is when people start saying, listen, when you make double-digit millions a year, you are hurting because you are taking up a lot of cap space. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, again, I know June 1 was that magical date where the cap hit goes down a little bit there for Julio Jones of the Atlanta Falcons. But make no mistake, everybody is on Julio Jones' watch here to see where it's going to go. And you've really heard everything. Seahawks, Titans, Patriots. Would the Raiders be interested in a potential Julio?
Can I ask this though? Because we've seen some of those, like would the Raiders be more of a contender than the Falcons? It's like, are the Patriots more of a contender than the Falcons? I understand you gotta make it work if you're Atlanta, but I think Seattle, to me, I think if Atlanta trades Julio, it's going to be to a team that is one of the top contenders for the Super Bowl.
Did you just ask me would the Raiders be a contender with Julio? Of course they wouldn't. It's the Raiders. No. Certain people, Julio. All I'm saying is, BJ, is this: if the Patriots get their hands on Julio, and they just signed Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, and they got a defensive end at the quarterback position, and they say Mac Jones looking good, get ready. The smidget under 6'5" Josh Allen, he can kiss that division goodbye. And I'm sorry to him. You might get better your second year, and no one's going to care. If Julio goes to New England, get the popcorn ready. You might have a Tampa Bay Tampa Bay versus New England in the freaking Super Bowl.
Don't speak that into existence. I don't want to see it. No.
I don't want to see that either, but Tom Terrific did a video on that Instagram without a knee brace on, so he must have added carrots to his cilantro smoothies. He must be getting better. You'll see.
We've got more to come here on 3 Night, including look ahead to college football. Who's got the biggest shoes to fill in college football? We'll break that down next. 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here with you on this Tuesday. Again, if you're just joining us, Georgia, with some big news earlier today where Eric Gilbert and Darion Kendrick both in the transfer portal, both committing to Georgia. So two big-time players, one an all-ACC corner from Clemson, a huge get there for Kirby Smart, and another, Eric Gilbert, a five-star tight end coming over, will drastically help the offense, give them another huge pass-catching threat there. We talk about who's got the biggest shoes to fill in 2021. Those guys may not have the biggest shoes to fill, but they are definitely filling some of the big needs there in Athens. But who has some of the biggest shoes out there to step in and try to replace?
Yeah, first and foremost, huge news for Georgia. You're right, Kevin. These are All-American type players, potentially. Kendrick, a two-time All-ACC corner for Clemson, who started 23 career games for the Tigers, won a national championship. And then Gilbert, obviously incredibly productive as a freshman, a five-star big-time tight end who, Ben, apparently Georgia wants to use a lot as an X-receiver, as a bigger potential option on the perimeter. So really excited about the future of those two guys in Athens. But I think a couple of guys come to mind. You know, Bryce Young, a lot of pressure on him, and I think he's poised to be a star. Had a great spring game, the quarterback at Alabama. But, you know, stepping in for Mac Jones, you know, first-round pick. Obviously, Tua, first-round pick. And, you know, Tua had one of the great careers in college football history, one of the great throws in college football history. Mac Jones just set the single-season passer rating record, the highest mark ever for 1 year for a college football quarterback, broke Joe Burrow's record. So I think Bryce Young, the Alabama quarterback, is kind of a natural answer. But I also think running back Ty Chandler at North Carolina. And if that name sounds familiar, SEC fans, he's been at Tennessee, transfers to North Carolina. And you think about the Tar Heels, Ben, they are getting top 10 type talk. I mean, you've seen them, you know, 9, 8, somewhere, you know, as high as the top 10 in some of the polls. A lot of people are saying, could they be a sleeper for the college football playoff? You're going to be playing right alongside Sam Howell, the star quarterback. But think about who he's replacing. Not one star running back, but two, in Javonte Williams and Michael Carter, both who were very highly picked in the draft. I think those two guys combined for close to 3,000 rushing yards, close to 30 rushing touchdowns last year. Both guys, Carter and Williams, averaged over 7 yards per carry for the Tar Heels. So Ty Chandler coming over from the SEC, Tennessee, goes to North Carolina. Keep an eye on him replacing two big backs, playing alongside Sam Howell there for the Tar Heels.
I mean, surprise, BJ. I mean, let me put my front runner shoes on. But I mean, I think it's prevalent. I think it is Emory Jones, because the thing is, right? I mean, let's go to Florida last year. You know how easy it is to say that Florida was going to win the East after they won the East? You know how easy it is to talk about how great Kyle Trask was going to be after he showed his great season? No one saw that happening. But the thing about Emory Jones is this: the reason why he got big shoes to fill, Felipe Franks, Kyle Trask did not get recruited by Dan Mullen. This is the guy Dan Mullen saw running his offense. So what we've seen thus far is a transition to the offense, not the guy who was built to run it. What they say about Felipe and those guys need to be willing runners. Well, you got a runner now, and you got a guy that can throw the football, BJ. I think for two reasons. One, Emory Jones got to prove that, you know, he's worth all the hype. But number two, Florida doesn't have this big-time recruiting class like Georgia. You're going to hear about that, the Clemson and Alabamas. They got to be the teams that are still good enough to beat those teams, but without those players. They're not going to have those top 10, top 15 recruiting classes. BJ, I know he just signed, but Eric Gilbert, he's under a lot of pressure. You know why? When they go ahead and say he's going to play the X, you know what people start hearing? They go George Pickett's replacement, no matter right, wrong, or indifferent. Because that's what happens, right? I'm all on Twitter during the break. All I keep hearing is this: if Kirby don't do it with this group, two guys, you just added two guys, and those two guys are going to put you over the hump. But I think, Eric, by saying that Gilbert is going to play the X position, that means that Darnell Washington, because you do realize Darnell Washington going to play the tight end, but they were like, look, Darnell, we just got a guy out the transfer portal. We'll need you to go in it. So to be able to have, remember, you want to have your best athletes on the field at one time. So you got 6'7", 6'8", 275, and you got the number one, tight end in the country just a year removed out there at X. I just think that he got some big shoes to fill, BJ, because we can't separate he's not George Pickens if he was there to replace him. I don't expect Gilbert to put up George Pickens type numbers but can he give me George Pickens type production and influence on the field? Yes, so he gonna have some really big shoes to fill. Because a lot of people thought Gilbert was going back to LSU, didn't do it. Gilbert was the guy that was tied to Georgia since he got in the transfer. Wait, they thought he was going to Florida. He ended up going so I think Gilbert gonna have some big shoes to fill. But I think the young man Emory Jones gonna have even bigger ones because he's replacing a Heisman Trophy candidate, a guy that didn't play football for 7 years because the guy he backed up is now with Miami. So I think Emory Jones won, Gilbert too, because I just think that while it's great, I think it's great that what they was able to add on defense. I think when it comes to Georgia, BJ, they've been waiting on George Pickens' replacement since he got hurt. Whoever thought it would be a tight end who wasn't even on the roster?
Yeah, and I mean, Kevin, how do you replace George Pickens? I don't know that it's exclusively Eric Gilbert. And look, Gilbert is a star. As a true freshman at LSU, he had 35 catches. That was in 7 games, or 7 or 8 games. So you're talking about a guy that has the potential to be a 5, 6, 7, 8 catch a game type player. Now, as a hybrid playmaker, is that solely as an X receiver? Is it solely as a tight end? It's probably a little bit of both. I think Jermaine Burton, when you talk about, stepping in for Pickens, I think he's a guy that people already anticipated was going to have a banner 2021. I think he's a guy that I would look at. But I mean, Kev, you could talk about the quarterbacks, you could talk about the running backs. I know C.J. Stroud at Ohio State stepping in for Fields. To me, we were talking about him in the show meeting, Kevin. DJ Uiagalelei is an interesting guy because you would say, hey, stepping in for Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 overall pick, but he had a spotlight game. Some of these guys, we haven't seen a ton of Emory Jones. We haven't seen a ton of Bryce Young. You're talking about,
but the reason I brought him up was because it's national championship or bust, right? I mean, it's Heisman Trophy play at the quarterback spot. We're in the playoff going to the national championship. That's the expect. That is large. I don't care how widely recruited you are. That's some large shoes to fill. And let me just say this. They were large shoes when Trevor Lawrence stepped into them too. And he stretched him out and made him a little bigger. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not putting that just on Trevor Lawrence. Like Trevor Lawrence stepped into some big shoes when he came in there. So that's why I brought him up. Another guy, I think if you just want to go off the radar as far as a guy that's stepping into a big spot as far as expectations, and most people will probably be like, who? I was just looking around. A dude named Hayes King, BJ, you might know who. He's a quarterback likely to win the job at Texas A&M. And you go, okay, well, he's a 4-star athlete, won a state championship in Texas, and Kellen Mond's on to the pros, and Jimbo's there trying to unseat Alabama to win a national championship or get in the playoffs and show they're stepping forward. I guess we should say, let's start with an SEC championship. But you're the dude stepping in at quarterback now, and I say it's going to be him, but he's got a little more experience than the guy that was behind him last year. You're playing to win the SEC from the jump and getting the playoff there at Texas A&M. I think he could be an interesting one with high expectations for very little playing time thus far in college football.
Yeah, and Kellen Mond, one of those quarterbacks, multi-year starter, very good player. I mean, people forget, and we've talked about this, Texas A&M was the first team out of the playoff. Texas A&M finished 5th in the country. So I like that one. I think there are guys stepping in at quarterback all over the country where the pressure, it used to be, right, Ben, like when a new quarterback took over, you would at least anticipate, a bit of a step back, or you would have kind of, the first couple of months or maybe even a full year to transition it. No. Now you are expected to maintain the status quo, make the college football playoff. You think about guys like Bryce Young, you think about guys like DJ Uiagalelei, you think about Emory Jones. The expectation is come in right away, be good, compete for championships, and kind of that's what is expected at these big time power schools.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, I understand too. I mean, guys ain't doing it for, like you said. I mean, Kevin, you talking about DJU? Can you continue to raise the standard because it gets Taj? You talking about Deshaun. You talking about Trevor. They just keep on raising the standard. BJ, I mean, when you talk about different guys, I mean, with a guy like Emory, listen, can you continue to change the status quo? Because I mean, the thing about Dan Mullen, right? He's known for quarterbacks, right? And no matter who it is, they've been good. No matter who it is, no matter what school it is. When you start, I think different guys got to do it for different reasons, and it ain't fair or unfair. Bryce Young, look, can you continue to be the standard? Can you continue to be the hunted? because everybody's chasing them. And BJ, used to be a time these guys got a year to get it going, right? Now no more. You better be ready right now, because no one's going to care that Bryce Young is a young man. So, I mean, Mac Jones and Kevin, you said something too. He said, what is he supposed to be, Mac Jones? He's supposed to be Tua? He's supposed to be both. Because Mac Jones, right, stayed the course and threw to the Heisman Trophy winner, and that's only because Jalen transferred and Tua left early, right? Or Mac Jones would have never played. So I do think these guys are under a different set of pressure, BJ. And I just think for a guy we haven't mentioned, big shoes to fill, I think it's Mackenzie Milton, because he is trying to get Florida State back to what Florida State used to be. Not a national contender, but nationally relevant. And that's hard to do too, but hey man, that's why we watch. That's why I'm looking. Listen, right now we on the Georgia 24-hour news cycle. They about to win the Natty in June 1st. I get that part. But come tomorrow, we'll get back to normalcy. And Nick Saban will go, what did Georgia do? Okay. Did Kirby say something? No, he said something at the SEC championship game. Jimbo, the one that said they want to beat y'all, beat the brakes off.
No, and I understand what you're saying. And look, Georgia has made, college football headlines today a couple of times, and you're talking about superstar players. I mean, Gilbert, All-American type ability. Kendrick, All-American type ability. But I do think, and I'll ask both you guys, I do think these are players that at the very least move you closer. If you feel like Alabama and Clemson are 1-2 in some respect, I think these guys, not only because they're great players, but because positions of need that you addressed, if you're Georgia, I think you're a lot closer, than you were a couple of days ago. And yeah, that's putting pressure on these guys. Kev, you talk about pressure. That's putting a lot of pressure on Eric Gilbert and Darion Kendrick. But I think when you're Georgia and you already were top 5, probably 4 or 5 in the eyes of some, I think this gets you closer to that 1-2 range. I do.
Yeah, I know what is Kirby. What is Kirby's motto? What pressure is a privilege. Yeah, well, pressure also busts pipes and make diamonds. I ain't never had no diamonds. I'm just saying, BJ, that stuff is real. And all I'm saying is, listen. All I'm saying, Kevin, is listen. When it comes to pressure, listen, it create diamonds. It's a privilege, But I'm saying, but pressure is also applied or felt. We gonna see come week 1 if they're gonna apply pressure or they gonna feel it. Because if Georgia loses, I know it's June 1st. If Georgia loses, they go, oh my God, see the same reason why they praise you gonna be the same reason why they talk trash about you if it doesn't work. So Mr. Gilbert, so Mr. Carey, I listen, congratulations. But that smoke they're already feeling that smoke right now because it's coming.
Huge buildup, obviously, already for Georgia Clemson. And now that you have a former All-ACC corner going to be starting on the other side against Clemson, just adds another layer of dynamics to it as well. So much more to get to here on 3 and Out. Braves and Nationals tonight, but certainly a lot of Braves news, not good in the news cycle over the weekend, as well as some good on. We'll break down both sides of the Braves' last 48 hours or so when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Tuesday. Braves and Nationals coming up later tonight. We'll have coverage for you 6:05 with pregame coverage as the Braves beat the Nationals yesterday. They're 6-1 so far in 2021 against Washington. Should be a good one tonight with Max Fried and Steven Strasburg. Braves 3.5 back of the Mets and still have 3 games left in this 4-game series with the Washington Nationals heading into tonight. But certainly it's as the Braves turn here with injuries and everything that's happened to the Braves on the field. You get the disturbing off the field news for Marcell Ozuna over the weekend, who was already on the injured list, arrested for a domestic violence charge, which again is unacceptable. And the Braves made a kind of, I won't say generic, but kind of like a business-like statement of, well, we're very disappointed. This is unacceptable. It's not something we support, and we'll wait and see what the legal process, puts out there. That's what we're left with the Braves. Brian Snitker basically just deferred to the Braves statements. Like, the Braves put a statement out, I'll stand by that. And I think the bottom line is, one, disturbing. If you read the police report or the incident report, disturbing, unacceptable, obviously by everybody's standards. And you just don't know when you will get him back. Obviously, this is secondary to everything that happened, BJ, but from a baseball standpoint, Marcell was the signing of the offseason. The fact you got him back to come back with the team was going to be a big, big boost. And obviously now he was injured. And I would dare say, and then this part, let me be very clear on that, would be speculation on my part, but looking at other players who have been involved in domestic violence situations in Major League Baseball, on the light end are guys who I think never had charges levied against them, but Major League Baseball put in a 15 to 20 game suspension. You've had a lot of other guys who have very clear incidents, 52, 82, 90, 100 game suspensions that have been put out there under their domestic abuse policy. So I think you look at it from that standpoint, he's on the injured list till at least a couple of months here, until the probably part of July. And then Major League Baseball's got their investigation. I just can't imagine, given what you read in the report, and obviously the legal process has to play out, that with Major League Baseball, he's going to be back in 2021. Now, what the Braves do from that point forward remains to be seen, but it would appear at minimum a 20 to 30 game suspension is upcoming at some point for Marcell Ozuna on the bare minimum of this thing.
Yeah, you're talking about, obviously, first and foremost, the potential legal ramifications, and then baseball secondarily doing its own investigation. And you mentioned multiple examples of there not being a conviction, but still being very substantial suspensions for Major League Baseball. But yeah, first and foremost, absolutely unacceptable. What's in the report, extremely troubling, extremely concerning. And you're talking about the legal ramifications, and then baseball. So your heart goes out to the victim. Obviously you're first and foremost looking at this from that standpoint. But it's speculation. But Marcell Ozuna and the Braves, that is way out there. That I don't think you see him with the Braves this season. And I think it's very fair to ask, do you see him in with the Braves ever? And then his status with baseball as well, that is way out there. And I just think you're talking about the potential for multiple layers that absolutely have to be addressed before you talk about Marcell Ozuna in any baseball capacity. But your heart's with the victim, and this is just an unacceptable situation. What's in the report?
Yeah, it is. And the thing about it is, when it comes to pro sports, when it comes to sports in general, as become the players and the decisions that they make, it always comes down to two things: production versus your behavior, right? Your tolerance level. Marcell Ozuna, I do not know his track record as far as like these type of decisions that he make, but my heart does go out to his wife and him as well, like when they dealing with their situation. BJ and Kevin, you got to ask yourself this: Alex Anthopoulos and Snit, do they want to deal with this? Because when you think about it, I agree with something you said, Kevin. Yes, you've had guys that had situations far worse than Marcell get a second and third, sometimes fourth opportunity. But did they deserve those opportunities, or were they just given those opportunities? Because the whole thing about it is, I believe that real life trumps these type of situations. And I'm never ever the one to be advocate to take away a person's opportunity, things they're doing. But I'm looking at them as an individual saying, look, do you need baseball as much as you need help pass this game? And I don't know. I'm not a therapist. I'm just saying I think it's a lot more to it. Look at the way Snit answered. When Snit said, look, I just go with what the Braves said. Because the unfortunate part about being a GM or a manager, or you have to answer questions about these players' individual decisions that have nothing to do with the game, and that could be a slippery slope. So I don't know. I don't see him being in the Braves uniform this year, Kevin, only because, number one, if any team, camaraderie is a big reason why, and their coach is a big reason why it's the Braves. You bring him back, because I know him and Ronald Acuna and Isaac, they got a real tight knit. Is it awkward? So I don't know. It's a lot of things to weigh, but I do agree. He gonna have to do a lot of things behind the scenes to be able to get back in the good grace of Snit as well as Alex Anthopoulos before he can they can make a decision on him. That's before baseball even come out and make a decision.
Yeah, just truly a terrible situation all the way around there with Marcell Ozuna. But on the field, BJ, they came back and won a game. Charlie Morton pitched pretty well yesterday, and you're doing it with a bottom third of the lineup full of a bunch of guys. You're going, wait a minute, who are these guys again? I think Contreras has been a revelation offensively. I know defensively he might cost you some, but Adrianza getting a bit more of a chance to play. Almonte, who they just brought up, has played fairly well. I mean, they've had some guys who have stepped up that you didn't even know were going to be a part of this team back in March and play vital roles. And now you look at the outfield, unless Christian Pache has some sort of offensive revelation at Gwinnett, and or Drew Waters can figure out how to not strike out a third of the time, neither one of those prospects I don't think are coming back up to help you. So it's about surviving the day-to-day with some of those guys until one of them becomes major league ready once again.
And for every team in baseball, I think it starts with pitching. And I think for the Atlanta Braves, you're looking to your starting rotation with the bullpen being in flux, and you're needing your starting rotation to set the tone. And tonight's pitching matchup is a fascinating one. When you talk about Max Fried for the Atlanta Braves, Steven Strasburg for the Washington Nationals, and the Nationals are really struggling, but you still have those big name starting pitchers. And Max Fried has been really good since that concerning start to the season when you talked about, was he not right physically with an injury? Was his confidence not there? But he did not have a great start to the year, but he's been really good since. And his ERA is 4.63, which is not great. But when you talk about where it was at the beginning of the year after the first couple of starts, it was in the 8s and the 9s, and he's been able to get that down. So I think you're looking to guys like Charlie Morton, you're looking to guys like Max Fried, all off season. We talked about Max Fried as being an ace, and at the beginning of the year he was not that, but the last couple of times out he's been close at least. And I think if Max Fried can be that guy tonight that can get you into the 7th inning, that can keep the Nats to a couple of runs, that's what you need from these starters. And it's never easy to go up against Steven Strasburg. I know he's been dealing with his own health issues. His numbers are not incredible. He's 1-2 with a 4.43 ERA, but right now the Nationals have been really bad. It's kind of hard to explain, but they've been one of the worst teams in the National League. And if you're the Atlanta Braves, you need Max Fried to set the tone. And if you can get a couple of runs against Strasburg, maybe that's all you need if Max Fried can continue to pitch really well.
Yeah, I was very, very impressed yesterday, Kevin. I mean, bigger than that with Charlie Morton. I was very, very impressed with Will Smith. I mean, the thing about it is Will Smith, those guys, those were, he knew why he was brought in, and he just haven't been living up to it. Definitely lived up to it yesterday. But BJ, something you said about, you winning me over with this starting pitching again. I mean, and maybe bigger than just the production is how many innings. Like, if you can give me 6, 7 would be woo. That would be like, I'm just saying, because I'm used to seeing. I'm looking at the game yesterday. I'm like, dude, I'm looking at the other pitch. I'm like, dude, he gave up 3 runs in the first. That's usually what the Braves do. Yeah, man, first inning, 4 runs. Now you playing catch up. I just think that, Kevin, the fact that this roster hasn't looked the same, 3 games in a row. I mean, it's with injuries and everything, and they're still in the hunt, has to say a lot about the culture of this team. Because the thing is, when Ronald Acuna Jr. hit his home run yesterday, I said, dude, he barely got underneath that. That thing still left the yard. So, go out there, listen, give your best effort. Max Fried, go out there and be who you been showing glimpses of, getting back to your old self. Now let the chips fall because you don't even know the reason why people go. I mean, they put the lineup out because you don't know who is gonna be on it at this point. I give the Braves a lot of credit for just just showing some good fight. Definitely looking impressive yesterday. Try to not let that three and a half games out from the match. Don't let that lead extend because you don't want 3.5 to become 4.5, 5.5, 6, and 7 because you'll spend the whole season trying to catch up.
Yeah, certainly. And again, we'll see if Max Fried, who's pitched really well, and I think the starter's ERA in May has come way down or came way down. I heard the stat yesterday from I believe it was Jeff Francoeur said the Braves bullpen or Braves pitching staff in April, or maybe it was just their bullpen, 54 walks by the bullpen in April, 38 in May. So cut it way down in 1 month. You don't walk guys, you get guys out, and the results speak for themselves. We've got more to come. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. And Ben, you have a special guest with you apparently.
This is Kevin. This is the next generation of troop / Bellingers. This is the youngest. This is Julian Bellinger, aka Juice. That's Juice in the house right now. As you can see, he has a mouthful of cookies, so he will not be talking right now. Go ahead and eat it.
Hey, Juice. Hey, Juice. What's up?
So what's up, man? As you can see, he's starstruck. He said in the break, he says, "Can I see Kevin and BJ?" I said, "Which one you want to see?" He goes, "I want to see Kevin."
There you go.
There he is. There it is.
He's got the gift of gab. That's for sure. No, it's good to have him throw here on the show. Again, we got the Braves coming up in about 10 minutes or so, 9 minutes here on the show. A chance to take first two of the 4-game series from the Nationals at BJ, and then hopefully move forward from there. The final 2 games, try to win that series.
Yeah, and I think you look at Max Fried tonight, and he's a guy, as we talked about, who's been an ace for you throughout his career, despite his relative inexperience. And I think you look at him and say, man, you got to set the tone. You know, Steven Strasburg probably not going to give up a ton of runs, even though he hasn't been fully healthy, and this hasn't been a traditional stretch for him. I don't think you feel like Strasburg is going to give up, 4 or 5 runs. That's normally not what he does. So I think you look at Max Fried and say, you got to give us a really good start tonight. And if so, you hope you can get a couple of runs from the offense, and maybe that'll be enough. The Nationals are really struggling.
Certainly been a crazy day today. Georgia getting Eric Gilbert and Darion Kendrick transferring into Athens. 2 big-time players coming in to Athens, committing to Kirby Smart. So big news there. Appreciate Bob Rathman, voice of the Hawks, joining us. Hawks and Knicks tomorrow in Game 5 of that series, a chance to close it out against the Knicks, and that one has been testy and contentious on and off the court the entire way. So we'll see if the Hawks can get it done there tomorrow as well. Appreciate Brooks Austin from Dogs Dale and SI joining us as well. We'll see you tomorrow, 3 and Out.